Good morning, everybody. We're sorry for the delay. Mickey is our wonderful technician and had everything all perfectly planned. And you know what happens then. Having some issues with the internet and connectivity, but we'll do the best we can, okay? Good. I'm glad you all found us here. This is not our usual resting place, but we're glad you were here, despite the lack of internet connectivity too much. My name is Berta Darvin, and I'm a member of the board of Shoreline Education for Awareness, and I'm also one of the volunteers. So I'm down on the beach. I'll be next week watching the baby seal pups, and we tried to find the whales. Now my director. You want me to start over? Let's hope not. Right. Well, today we're going to be sharing about just 12 of the programs that C is involved in. And we want to encourage you to think about joining us. What's that? Recording. Oh.
It's just the technology.
I thought it was God. Take me, Lord.
More voice.
Of course. All right. So we're going to talk about 12 of the different programs and stuff. And want you to help consider joining us on the beach or on the overlooks as we're doing our thing. So C is an all-volunteer organization. Nobody's making the big bucks, but we're all getting paid. It's very, very much. And you know, the people, you, volunteers, are critical to the success of all of our programs. And we are very visible out there. We are the ears and the eyes out on the beach. So today, we're actually have 3 experts. And they might not consider themselves experts, but I sure do. And if you know any of them, you know that they are in fact experts. So the first presenter is going to be Nancy Messner. And she first moved to Oregon in 1972 to go to Oregon State University. Got her undergraduate degree there, then went up to Washington to get her graduate work there. And then she and her husband moved to Utah and worked at Utah State for a number of years and did some wonderful things in sciences there. She retired to Bandon in 22, and got very involved with C. And a lot of the work that Nancy does is actually in Charleston and at Simpson's Reef, but she's here too. And Carol Maud, I mean, if you've ever been to the beach here in Bandon, you probably have met Carol Maud. She's so active with everything that we do here at C. She retired here in 2021 and really is an expert on so many things that we do. And our third presenter is Diane Bilderbach, who retired here in 2003 from Missoula, Montana. So she's obviously going to be doing a lot of beach work there. So she was a professor in botany and biology there, and associate dean of arts and sciences for a number of years also. She's co-authored several books on it, and truly, really is an amazing expert. So why citizen science? And you know, we are the eyes and the ears on the beach, and today we're talking about those 12 programs I said. We encourage you to really think about maybe joining us, supporting us in any way that you can. We've got a lot of good information. Help yourself to brochures there. If you got this handout, we're kind of going down that list very quickly and letting you know some of the details of how you might be able to get involved. I'm Nancy again, and a little caveat before we get going. The experts are here. I just, take my orders, try not to embarrass myself too badly. But so I'm sure they'll speak up if I misidentify something or make a mistake. I hope they do. So real briefly, I'm going to talk about the Sea Pup Watch program, which has started, I hear. And I'll go through some of these details through the slides themselves. But basically, we've got this wonderful situation where the mother seals give birth to their pups on the rocks down at Coquille Point.
and then rest down there. And so it's an incredible opportunity for people to see what's going on and to watch this. And the unfortunate thing about this is that we've got the potential for a lot of close proximity between people that are just curious and want to see something, and sometimes, worst case, want to get a selfie with a sea pup, you know, with a seal pup. And so we've got a lot of sort of goofy behavior that people don't realize is goofy, in fact. And so our program basically is to try to help interested, good meaning people, well-meaning people, have the experience of looking at the sea pups and learning a little about them without bothering them. And that's the trick. And you know, people are like, oh, they won't bother me. I have a special affinity with seal pups. And so helping people understand that that's not always the case. So this is the general area. Are all of you from Bandon? Yeah. So you know this area, and you know that this is a time of year when this kind of magic starts. And looking down, you've got Elephant Rock and several other major shore islands there. And the sea lions, or excuse me, the harbor seals congregate. We've got about 45 to 50 maybe throughout the season. And so the mature females out of that group are the ones that are reproducing. And each year, I'm told, maybe 15 to 18 actually give birth. And the survivorship of those was not that great over the years because of people just kind of loving them too much, you know. And so our goal with Sea Pup Watch is to simply interact with people, kindly explain to them what is important for a seal mom. So here's a young pup and its mother. And you can see the big difference here. These guys are going to grow really, really fast. Their mother's milk is incredibly nutritious, and they can swim when they're first born, unlike some sea mammals. And but they don't feed at sea, and so they rest mostly. The mothers with them, and then the mothers will take off and go hunting sometimes and come back so that they can continue feeding the pups. And these guys just kind of hang. They stay where they're supposed to be. There's a mother pup where the pup has just been born. You can see a little bloody discharge there. You can even see the amniotic sac right there, which is kind of amazing. And so when people see this, they sometimes think something's wrong. You know, there's blood on this pup or something like that. And or when the mother goes out to feed, then she'll leave the pup on these rocks, and people will see it, what they think is an abandoned pup. And so we have to let people understand that not abandoned, and the worst thing you can do is get close to them or touch them, because then your smell is on the pup, and they identify their mothers, and mothers identify the pups by smell. Mostly their vision isn't very good. And so we sort of establish a line that's safe, and we tell people how to know whether they're bothering the mothers. And mostly it's like if they're looking at you or if they're moving around a little bit, that's a sign that they're being disturbed. And so it's a simple solution. You back off. All dogs on leashes, no drones, those sorts of things are also rules that we're pretty serious about. And here's a little stinker. There's, I don't know, maybe a couple of weeks old. They wean at about 3 weeks or 4 weeks, and then they're on their own. And the mothers stick around for a while. So if you want to join, on our website, which you've got all of this information on this beige sheet. So it's c.org or c/edu.org.
Just to add to that, we just finished Seal Pup training. We had 2 training classes, one yesterday and one last week. We had about 22 volunteers take the training, and we're now setting up shifts to do training for the next couple of days. We have 3 pups, 2 that were born Thursday, 1 that was born actually during our training class yesterday. I hope this doesn't gross anybody out, but there was a placenta in the water and blood, and so we knew that a seal had been around the corner. having a pup, and all the gulls came and grabbed at all the stuff that was in the water, and then pretty soon the mom brought her pup out and around the corner. So we know definitely that we have 3 out there right now, so it's a little earlier. First one born the 24th. Last year, the first one that I knew about was on the 29th of April. So we're a little bit ahead of schedule, and we've kind of had to juggle to set up the trainings, to set up volunteering so that we're out there with coverage. Just to kind of educate people to stay 50 yards away is the rule of thumb. So I'm Carol Maude, and one of the programs that I'm involved with volunteering for is Oregon Whale Watch. The state Parks and Recreation every year sets up whale watching sites at 15 locations, starting up at Fort Stevens in Astoria, and goes all the way down to Brookings at Harris Beach. And we happen to have 2 of the locations here. One is at Face Rock, and one is at Shore Acres, and then there's also one at Umpqua State Park, and those are all close by. And basically they have about a week between Christmas and New Year's in December for the migration of whales coming south from Alaska to Mexico, and they pass by our shores. And then in the spring, they head back up north, and we usually have a 2-week whale watch thing at the state parks in the spring. And they basically set it up those dates because that's when kids are off school. So people are traveling with their families, and they can stop by and see some cool stuff. We have models of the seals, the whales. I'm getting my species mixed up. We have samples of them to give an idea of what their anatomy looks like, since what you see is pretty far offshore. We have whale bones and vertebra and ropes that show what the lengths are, so people can visualize what they're talking about. Is something that weighs 40 tons and is the size of a school bus. So basically what you do if this sounds like it's something that you'd like to volunteer for, you can go on to the orwhalewatch.org website at any time and put your name in there so that you'll be contacted when they do the annual signups. And usually the annual signups typically begin in October, and you have to go in to apply. Even though you're a volunteer, you are technically part of the state of Oregon. Even though you're not employed, you're just a volunteer, you still have to be vetted and go through the process as if you were an employee. So but that's all done online. And then once that's done, then they have a sign-up sheet where you can sign up, and you can actually sign up on any of the locations along the coast. Some of the people have RVs and they travel, and they'll go down and they'll hit each location down the coast. So that's kind of fun. We just got the results of what they saw with this last year that just ended the end of March. We saw a total of 5 spouts and talked to about 1,000 visitors this year between the winter and the spring whale watch. And that was mostly because we had really poor weather and really poor visibility. But the whole coast, they spotted 252 whales and talked to almost 28,000 people. So it was a real good success. This is a view from Face Rock of our sign, reminding people to bring their binoculars and look for watch for whales. And this is Berta and I out one day that you can see the weather wasn't great, but we did have pretty good visibility that day. And then that's at vertebra right there. And then what Berta's holding is a rib. And all of our other props were in the box here because it was raining. So. And then that was Michelle Schaefer. She was another volunteer. And then this was 2 years ago. Arlena Skoida and I volunteered one day, and we actually, well, I guess I don't have to point with that, do I? There was a whale spout right there. And that was just right off of Face Rock, kind of over in this area here.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about the Oregon Marine Mammal Stranding Network. And it was sponsored by NOAA and the Oregon State University. Jim Rice is the stranding program manager who is responsible for the systematic collection, analysis, and archiving of stranding data and biological data samples. And this data is stored in a national database and is used to help understand the health of the marine mammal populations as well as protections that they may need. So what is a stranding? Actually, stranded animals are any that are on shore. Seals, and sea lions will come ashore to rest. They also may come ashore when they're sick. Northern elephant seals may also come ashore in those same two situations, but they also have a catastrophic molt, and they may then stay on the shore for about 2 weeks. Whales, dolphins, and porpoises only come ashore when they're ill or dying. So if you see any onshore marine mammals, as well as sea turtles, this is important, especially if you see a sea turtle, to report this to the NOAA West Coast Region Stranding Hotline. I think we have that on your sheet, yes. What you're going to want to do is to report the location, whether the animal is alive or dead, if the animal is being harassed by people or dogs, or how many people are on the beach. Please stay far enough away from living animals so that they're not moving. If they're moving, you're too close, okay? Report the location, whether the animal is dead or alive. We would love to have other volunteers here in Bandon help with posting signs around stranded animals that are stranded on our beaches, so that way we can alert those people who are in the area to go around, as well as not have the animals be moved, because if they're on the beach, they have the right to be there. That's part of their habitat. So Dave and I have done, this is my husband Dave, and exams and in the past necropsies, but the exams help get data such as front flippers and hind flipper measurements, and we also look to see whether what the sex is, if we can tell. It depends upon the carcass as to what's left, and so if you're interested in doing this type of work or watching it, please let me know. So just let me know that you would like to do that. Okay, so now we have a series of pictures. So many of the volunteers here at sea took part in helping to do interpretation and keep people away from this northern elephant seal that came ashore in Sunset Bay, right? And then Carol got to see it when it had gone back to sea on Simpson Reef. So it was a great success. And this is a female stellar sea lion. You can see that it has the large front flippers as well as hind flippers. And then the top of it is all this creamy color. And you can get a hint of how dark the bottom is on the back by the hind flipper there. Okay, the next slide is a juvenile stellar sea lion. And again, you can just see how massive those flippers are. They're really amazing. The next slide, this is a California sea lion male, and I know that because he has this bony protrusion on the head that makes it look like a bald spot. But this is the same type of sexual characteristic that an elk would have, with the antlers. And in this area, you're only going to see males because they come up and feed in this area. The females stay down in California where they've given birth to their youngs. And this is a northern elephant seal. I included this one again because of the whiskers and the eyebrows. They're black in color. And for seals, this is the only one that will be a northern elephant seal, has these black whiskers. The other thing is the short flipper. So, you know, again, it's a seal. It's gonna look like this when it's moving, okay? And the next slide will show this long hind flippers, and they're really pretty big. So that is a way to look at it. This is a Guadalupe fur seal, and it is a small, that animal is probably no more than, you know, not higher than my knees, and I'm short. So anyhow, there's also northern fur seals that look very similar to this. This animal has a little bit of fat on it, but a lot of times when we see these animals on the beach, or if they're dead, they are very, very thin. And that's because they originally are in the Mexico and lower California area, and they probably haven't had enough food. And so they have come north to try and find food. And they run out of energy, and that's part of the reason why we have quite a few strandings of this. And as a stranding volunteer, we also do things with whales. This is a sei whale that died and came ashore on south of Face Rock. And you can see the pouch, the throat pouch, and then the tongue, and then the baleen. So this is a filter feeder. And the next photo is the close-up of the baleen. That's one of the things we like about being a volunteer for this. So please let me know if you're interested. Thank you.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the work we do at Simpson Reef in Shell Island, which is just near Charleston, if you know where that is. So it's a little bit of a drive, and it's a little bit out of our usual footprint, but we get to do some wonderful interpretation and help people see things that are in Shell Island, which is, I believe, the highest number of marine mammals that you find on the Oregon coast at any given time. So there's 2 sea lions, 2 types of seals, and then on occasion several different types of whales that come in, but they're less predictable. Okay, so we have a couple of really high quality, experienced volunteers that drive this whole show. It's Bee and Dave Bone. And I'm not sure, yeah, there's Bee in her chair, and Dave here somewhere. They've been doing this for 35 years. They live, I think, in Medford or someplace, but they come out here, and one of the ways we're able to help them is to give them a slot for camping, for putting their trailer during the summer, because they do so much for us. And they train people, and they come out onto this wonderful viewing area at Simpson Reef, just pull out on the road, really, at Cape Arago. And with spotting scopes, with binoculars on tripods, so that little kids can look through it, because kids have trouble with spotting scopes. They now have adapters for photos from iPhones, and there's all sorts of stepping stools and things like that, so that people can really get a close look. And it's a wonderful experience, because folks kind of come out and they sort of look out there and they say, oh, what's out there? And then you direct them to the spotting scopes or the magnification or the binoculars, and you get that reaction like, oh, which is what I'm always looking for when I'm working with folks, is that, because you realize they've really seen it now. So let's see what they're looking at. These are some pictures, I believe, that Carol took. So this is Shell Island. You can see there's an enormous amount, there's huge numbers of animals out there. The population, the mix of animals changes throughout the year. During this time of year, we've got the northern sea lions that are usually way offshore someplace. They sort of vaguely kind of wander up and down, but they stay pretty far away from the shore, except when they're molting. And as Diane said, it's an intense mold. They lose some of their upper skin and their fur, so they look kind of mangy. People see them and they go, "Oh, what's wrong with that one?" But it's just how this works. But they don't swim during those periods, and so they come to Shell Island and other locations and just basically lounge there. And I think we've got one right here. You can see it kind of looking straight at us.
Yeah, this
About-
California sea lion was taking a piggyback ride.
Yeah, about 3 times as big as anything else out there. They are enormous, and they just kind of chill. They don't because they've lost so much of their fur and even the hair. It's too cold for them to go offshore to go into the water, because the water, of course, here is very, very cold. And so so this is just a wonderful location.
So they're not swimming, so they're not eating, so they're living off whatever.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Well,
for that
they're
period of
molting,
time. That's
they're
exactly right,
living
thank
off
you,
their
yeah,
fat.
there. And they're there, it's about a 3-week period, up to a month, where they're just hanging out there. It's a long period. And then after they've grown, they've completed the molt, and they've got fresh fur and new skin, they take off and start eating again. There are females there that pup while either there or a few of the other beaches nearby. And that's the origin of that little pup that Diane was just showing you. And I didn't even know that until just when we got the call to come out and take a look at this thing. And here's I think we've got the 2. This is the Stellar sea lion, and I think this is a California.
Yes.
And the California sea lions are a little smaller. They spend a lot of their time down in California, appropriately, and they are both the sea lions have harems. Actually, the northern fur seal does too. And so in their breeding grounds, the males are always displaying and carrying on, doing what males do, and and eventually they sort things out, and just a few males do all the mating. And so then you've got all these excess males, and that's a lot of who we see at Shell Island. They take off, and they head south and north, excuse me, and they may go as far as British Columbia, actually, but we get a whole lot, up to a couple of thousand of them that stop here. They're the ones that bark. You can hear them carrying on. And they're the only ones that really make a serious noise. Something makes a noise like a
Yeah, the Stellar has a growl.
it sounds like a baritone saxophone. And then the Stellars are Oregon sea lions. But they don't either mate or give birth on Shell Island. They do that elsewhere. And then the extras, again, because they also have harems, the extras come and spend time on Shell Island, and like I said, you can have thousands of them out there. It's amazing. It's an amazing display. The seals, the harbor seals, are mostly off to the side. Those are the ones that are having pups here right now. They have them there, but you need to have a broader picture to sort of see where the harbor seals are hanging out. And again, I think we've got just another sea lion, northern. Elephant seal, thank you. Yeah,
yeah,
it's not working. Big proboscis on it. It's demanded.
Shuts me out.
So if you want to, let's keep going here.
Yeah, I can't right now.
I can't do
Okay, well, anyway,
Just right
what you
there.
can see in this area from the lookout is also lots of sea birds, marine birds, and some that are associated with marine environments like bald eagles, and of course there's orcas, and there's gray whales that come there as well. So there's all sorts of stuff to be seen. It changes every day, and there's these guys. You'll have several of them often just kind of hanging out there, and an amazing collection of birds too. So it's just one of my favorite spots on the Oregon coast, actually. And if you wanted to spend some time there and help me and Dave, the contact information is on your sheet.
Okay, the next thing that you can volunteer for in the Bandon area, it's a little different than the first year because it doesn't involve primarily wildlife, which is what we've mostly been talking about. This is called Coast Watch, and it's basically the Oregon Shores Coalition, or Conservation Coalition, has set up a program called Adopt a Mile, where individual citizens can adopt any of the 360 some odd miles along the Oregon coast, where they go out quarterly based on seasonal changes and walk the mile and then report online what they see. So it's kind of an interesting thing for the people that are in their labs, not on the beach, to get our eyes and ears of what we're seeing here on the coast. Shoreline Education for Awareness has adopted Mile 101, which is the mile between Coquille Point and Face Rock. And I have been doing the submission of reports for that mile for C last year. But actually anybody, and you don't have to do it through C, anybody can go onto their website. I guess it's right here. And you can take a look at what miles there are available. And if you're interested, if you say live down by a certain spot of beach and you walk your dog there every day, you might want to sign up for that mile and then submit a report. All you have to do is take maybe, I think, a maximum of 12 pictures each time you go out there, and then just give them an overview of what the conditions were and what you saw when you were out there. So this is the mile that we do for C. It's between about the 8th Street stairs here and about right in front of Face Rock here. And these are just the sort of the pictures that I take when I'm out there, showing what's on the beach, showing what's offshore, what the weather conditions are. If I do see wildlife, I'll take pictures of that. And then this is a list, a portion of the list when you go to that website. This kind of shows you what miles are available. If you were to live near Whiskey Run Beach, you might want to adopt mile 108, if that's where you go out and walk. So this sort of gives you an idea.
And I don't believe they limit the number of people. In other words, if a mile is...
No, you don't have to say, oh, somebody else
more
already
people
does
to
that.
sign up for the
Yeah.
same.
But it's kind of nice if you go on here, you can look at a mile, like say if you decide you want to adopt mile 108, you can go on there and look at all the past reports. And if you see one that hasn't been reported on in years, that would be a really good one to adopt.
Just like your program, Coast Watch, Coast is also based on adopting a specific section of beach and to watch. And in this case, it's not once a quarter, it's once a month. Coast is directed by Dr. Julia Parrish at the University of Washington, and trained volunteers measure any found dead birds, bill, wings, and tarsus from here to there is basically where it would be, and take photos of the birds as well as collecting beach and weather conditions, and then they submit that all on their data sheets back to Coast along with photos. I'm going to go to the next one. This data provides a baseline monitoring for avian influenza, information about the impacts of harmful algal blooms, which Dave and I actually, this was back in a long time ago, there was a huge number of common myrrh that came ashore dead on our beaches and in the fall and winter, and that was the result of the harmful algal bloom. And the blob, the largest intense marine heat wave in 2018, they found that huge numbers of common myrrh died up in the Alaska area, and this has had a profound effect on those populations. So there's an upcoming talk, training by Dr. Julia Parrish, and there's even one here in the park that's coming. And she's going to also be giving a talk at the Oregon Institute of Marine Biology. She is just a fabulous speaker, so that's something I think David would like to go to. So then the next picture. So Dave and I have been involved with Coast since 2006. And we find that the best way is to have 2 people at least in a team. So that way one person puts on gloves and does the measurements, the other person does the data sheets. And that way it works out pretty good. So next, one of the things that I really enjoy is getting a chance to see these birds up close. This bird was found on actually Kent and Bev's mile. They were out of town at the time, and so we did their survey. And this bird might have been one of the peregrine falcon chicks that fledged in that year off of Face Rock. So go ahead and do the next. So again, you get a chance to see all of the bird, and that's what you have to show for your data. Yeah, go ahead. And this is a Cason's auklet, and notice the feet are blue. It's the only blue-footed bird that we know of in this area. Anyhow, these are really small, as you can tell. And the other bird that is got 3 webbed toes, just like this bird, is a common murre. So those are both in the groupings of alcids. Dave and I knew nothing about, the actual structure of birds and systematics and how all that sort of thing. And so it was grand to have this notebook, which of course I'm sorry I forgot to bring mine, but you can learn everything at this training. It's just amazing. And so the last bird, you can see this is a western grebe, and again, look at those interesting feet. And the other thing you can learn is this bird a male or female? That's because that bill matches the female. A male would have a longer bill and would be much straighter. So there's a lot of fun things that you can learn with this. And I think that's it.
So the next thing we'll talk about is Nurdle Patrol. One of the things that C does once a month is I will send out an email and to all C membership and say, hey, this date and this time we're going to go collect nurdles at Tishpang Beach, which is just across the public trail just north of Seabird Drive off of Beach Loop. And this is what we collect, nurdles, if you guys want to pass these around. They're little plastic pellets that are used to bake larger plastic products. And they're washing up on the beaches because they are transported on container ships, and some of them end up falling off and get into the water supply, in the rivers and the ocean. And of course then fish can eat them, birds can eat them, and they will ultimately end up in our digestive systems if we eat those animals. So we're just trying to, there's a group out of the University of Texas called Nurdle Patrol, and there's some other groups that do the same thing too, and they're just sort of tracking them. So what we do is we go onto the beach and we find them. That's a picture of the nurdles. And then we report onto their website and show how many we found and where it was located. And if you go to nurdlepatrol.org's website, it'll show you a map, and it's worldwide that they track this. And it just gives you an idea of what they're finding and where it's located. You've got kind of a purple number here, and I wonder if that's because we submit information so frequently. But this is something that takes only 10 minutes in the morning. We go out, and this is what they look like. This is tube of chapstick, so it gives you some perspective. But these are what the nurdles look like when you see them on the beach. And then we just pick them up. I take them home, I count them, I report them, and then we're done until the next month. But anybody is welcome to join us. Jean was on our group this last Friday, and The one nice thing that I like to do is if you like to go down on the beach, there's no stairs here. So it's easy access onto the beach. And you can kind of add it to your morning walk if you'd like to join us.
A few years ago, C got involved in petitioning the state to change some of the designation for the islands around Coquille Point. And at the beginning of this year, the designation became official. So it's now officially a marine garden, which nothing really changes on any of the other protections or designations out there. But what does change is that there's some attention now given to sort of the broader ecosystem, all of the elements of it, and to the invertebrates and the algae that live around there, because a lot of the sort of charismatic species, the mammals and the birds, are covered in various ways, but often we don't know as much about the algae and the invertebrates. So it's a fabulous place, low tide, mostly accessible at very low tides, but at these extreme low tides, you can get out there and just see this abundance of species that you don't even know are out there by just kind of getting down and moving a few blades of algae or looking closely. It's sort of an intimate kind of a deep look at a small area. And there's some sites that you can go to take a look at, or to sign up if you'd like to, or really at this point it's just exploration. We're working also, we're a member of an interagency task force, I guess you call it, that covers the rocky marine habitat along the Oregon beach. And I think there's 12 now marine gardens. And so representatives of the marine gardens, the ones in the south are new. And we meet just by Zoom once a month or so and discuss, whether there needs to be educational material and a monitoring program and how that might be best accomplished. And I really enjoy sitting in on these because you're sort of at the ground floor, kind of, these people that know so much, and they're talking about sort of how you best probe and explore an area to provide good scientific data, but also wonderful experiences for the people that are there. So the monitoring program at this point is not in place. It's being built even as we speak. And some discussion of what is important and what is sort of not as important for understanding the health and diversity of these areas. Let's look at some pictures. This is a Capharina tunicata, a black leather chiton. And what do they call it here? Black cadia. It's got a lot of different names. But it's a mollusk, and so it's like a snail. But all that's left of its shells are these 8 plates on its back. And you don't want to flip them over, but if you find one that's been flipped over, it's one huge, really muscular foot that it holds onto. And it's got kind of a rasping tongue that it sort of scrapes stuff off the rocks. So it's kind of a vegetarian and an herbivore. Here's the big predators in these areas, the sea stars. They find a prey, usually some kind of a bivalve, a mussel or a clam, and they invert their stomachs. So they stick their stomach out of their body and sort of weasel it into the crack while they're pulling apart the two sides of the shell, the two shells of these critters, and get their stomach inside the shells and digest their prey out there. So it's like everything, it always seems to me that sort of you can come up with in sci-fi you can find in the intertidal. Can I go back to some of the other stuff? Yeah, and this is a gooseneck barnacle. It looks like it might be a mollusk also because it's got these shells and things, but it's actually related to shrimp and to lobster. It's an arthropod. And underwater, when it's submerged, this will open up and you can see a little guy in there on its back, sort of waving its little segmented feet around, and it's kind of sifting things out of the water. We have a lot of those out here too. And I guess there's another picture coming up of another. Oh, this is this shows. I love this picture because it kind of shows you the range of what you find in an intertidal area. So, you know, you've got subtidal, these things are always submerged. You've got the dry land, and then you've got this in-between world. And these guys that live there have evolved to handle different levels of being submerged. Some of the stuff at the very top are really underwater, just, they call it a splash zone, just a few hours a month maybe. Where some of these down here are submerged most of the time and only exposed during extreme low tides. And so you have this kind of zonation. The scientists that look at that talk about zonation. And who you find in a given place is really controlled by the behavior of the animals and the degree to which the tides are covering these folks up. So it's actually, it seems kind of static, but it's actually a very dynamic part of the marine world. And I think we have one other picture. Oh no, here's more of these sea stars and another type of chitin, mossy back chitin. Is that the last one you did there? Okay. And again, we have trainings to understand that, what's going on. We're going to have volunteers going out this year that will guide, will lead some field trips. And those will be posted. And then I hope by next year we'll have some opportunities to volunteer for an actual monitoring program as well. Because in my experience, the monitoring, if you're involved in that, you're looking a lot closer. And so you learn a lot. You learn different things and you learn more things.
Some members at sea, myself, Nancy Bailey, and Bruce Williams, set up last year to provide pictures to the University of Santa Cruz in California to sort of follow up on the sea star wasting disease that pretty much wiped out about 90% of the sea star population earlier in the 2010s. They've started to come back. They've made a remarkable recovery, and as you can see from some of those pictures, we have many sea stars on our coast. They're still researching as to what the cause of this was. So we do provide them pictures on a quarterly basis, just to let them see what we see here. Most of the sea stars we see here in Bandon are the ochre sea stars, which are the purple or the orange ones. And these are, the funniest thing about once I started taking pictures of sea stars is how much they sort of look like people sometimes. Sort of hanging out with their friends. So I always try to find the funniest pictures. And then this is the website if you wanted to get more information about sea star wasting disease. We don't have any volunteer opportunities for this right now, but this just kind of gives you an idea of some of the things that we are looking at.
Another opportunity to just observe things mostly is bird viewing from some of our wonderful lookouts here in Bandon. And sea sponsors these periodically through the summer, so you can keep an eye on things and find out when they're going to be out. So the first event, sort of kick things off, is on May 3rd. It's the Puffin Party, which celebrates the return of the puffins to Case Rock, and now we know they're on Elephant Rock and Table Rock. So it's kind of amazing, because for a while the puffins population was really down, and they seem to be recovering a little bit now, but it's a little hard to know with these populations. So at 10 o'clock at Coquille Point, you can join us for the activities of welcoming back puffins. Whether we'll actually see the puffins or not, I don't know, but see wonderful things. And then that afternoon at 1 o'clock, we're having a seminar at our usual seminar location. Catherine Lucier, who I don't know, but I guess she's she's very knowledgeable on these things and a good speaker. So she's with the Bird Alliance of Oregon, which is out of Portland. It's the old Audubon. And just like these other observational opportunities, sea volunteers come out, set up scopes, set up binoculars, and are there to help point things out. Because often it's hard to sort of see what's going on. There's the contact information. and count the number of number of visitors that come through, and also provide information on other activity that we're seeing out there to some of the agencies. And so a lot of these opportunities, we're providing information to several different entities at the same time. So here's, no doubt, is that you, Carol? No? I assume you're on every picture. What else are you taking?
And Lori.
Oh, so here are some intrepid souls on a cold day. We're getting things started. And we get nice signs. And they're looking out at Face Rock, which is where we see these wonderful puffins. And you're succeeding. They have these amazing beaks, and they dive. You've probably seen this, either videos of it or seen it at some of the aquariums on the coast. And they can catch multiple fish. They've got a little, I think there's an edging on it, sort of roughness on one side of the beak that keeps them from getting away. And so they dive down, they come up, and they got a whole mouthful of little fish that then they feed to their babies in these tunnels. These are tunnel nesters. And so here on Face Rock at the top, what are those? Those are murs. And here we've got a cormorant, I don't know what kind. And here I can only see, I think, two, excuse me, puffins at this point. But I think that they're the opening of their tunnel. One of them is down in here. So there's a couple of other views of these. You got a puffin sort of inspecting the tunnel or trying to decide if it's.
5 seconds after I took this picture, something jumped out and he backed off and said, okay, that one's taken.
Housing is always a problem with these coastal areas. And here you got the gulls and the puffins. And can you see the puffin in this one? Yeah, and then all the murs, and a couple more shots of these, I believe. Yeah, there you go.
They're easier to see.
These are impossible to see, at least for me, with regular binoculars standing at Face Rock. And so having this high quality equipment to use is just transforms the experience completely. It's just wonderful.
Yeah, 650 yards from the overlook to Face Rock.
Yeah, yeah. And my eyes don't do that.
So the next thing we're going to talk about is black oyster catchers. And Terry and I don't know, it's Ken and Bev. Bev is also one of our black oyster catcher monitors, as well as Terry here in the area. And it's something that we've been involved in since again around 2006. So Bird Alliance of Oregon sponsors and trains people for black oyster catcher monitoring. And their next black oyster catcher monitoring virtual training is on April 30th at 6:30 to 8. So if you're interested in getting a chance to do this, you should make sure you attend that training. Black oyster catchers are a species of concern as their rocky shore habitat is very limited and subject to sea level rise as well as rising air and sea temperatures. Trained volunteers monitor the nests on a weekly basis to determine nesting success of the nest, as well as any natural or human disturbances, and submit written reports. The data for monitoring is used to determine nesting success in Oregon, as well as ways to identify problems. One important finding was that drone interactions were happening many more times than suspected, and this has led to some drone restrictions during the breeding season on beaches. And that's because when the birds have the drones in the air, they will leave their nests and eggs or chicks and attack it just like they would a raptor, an eagle, or a turkey vulture, or osprey even. Big bird, there. anyhow, and unfortunately with the drones, they are up in the air for such a long time that they can be away from their nests, and that's just the right time for somebody else, like a western gull, to come in and swoop and get those chicks or the eggs. They'll eat the eggs. So next. So these are two paired black oyster catchers, and they're squawking at probably another black oyster catcher that's in their feeding territory. And we often see this, especially at this point in this time, they're defending their feeding territories. Okay, and then this is actually, I think, Terry,
We know
this,
where that is.
yeah, this was on Middle Coquille, the east end, and she's sitting on eggs, and I don't remember which year. And then this is this newly hatched chicks.
2018.
Yeah. And so you can see that the parent above has food in its bill to feed that chick, and both parents feed, both parents incubate, you know, so there's a whole bunch of, everybody is working hard. And when the chick gets a little older, if they're on a rock that they're able to, then they take that chick down into the intertidal where it's easier for the parent to go down, find food, and get to it. And they don't have to go as far. And this is actually Bev's nest, Bev Kent's, on Gray Rock at near 8th Street. And this chick is a little older, you can see by the feathers. And then go to the next one. So these are a little older yet. And those are on Monkey Rock, which is in the Devil's Kitchen area. Dave and I monitored these. They had 3 fledged chicks. They got to be fledged. But these right now, they're not old enough to, I mean, you can see that their tail isn't long enough. They can't fly when they don't have as long a tail. So then if you go to the next one, this is a fledged juvenile black oyster catcher. You can see the black tip on the edge. That is only a bird that has fledged this year will have that black tip. And notice that the eye ring, there isn't really an eye ring compared to the adults. And then the next one, this shows the adult with a really strong eye ring, and then the chick. And they do sometimes go with their parents and learn how to forage, you know, in the intertidal area. So it's a lot of fun to watch these birds. And then the last item for today is the snowy plover. And this program is sponsored by Bird Alliance of U.S. Fish and Wildlife and Bird Alliance of Oregon. Snowy plovers is listed as an endangered species that has recovered from a low of 50 birds to around 500 birds in Oregon, with the help of U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, Oregon State Parks, and other agencies. This recovery really was achieved by protecting the birds from predators and dogs. And I'm just gonna mention that, you know, if you go to China Creek, there will be a restriction from March 15th through September 15th. You can't have your dogs on that beach. It used to be, it was just dogs on leashes. There was so much bad behavior that unfortunately they had to not permit the dogs to be there. But you, as a person, can go in the wet sand. So volunteers are really needed only in the area south of Langlois and at Horsefall Beach. And there's training modules that are available from the Bird Alliance, and monitoring would require weekly surveys from April to August. It would mean you'd have to travel to different places. If you're interested, you can contact Cheryl Strong, and I've given the email, and that is also on your handout. And the next are just a few pictures. I would like to make sure you understand how small snowy plovers are. This is a snowy plover, and the bird on the right is a sanderling. And look at the length of the bill. So it really, has, it's really a much smaller bird. Go to the next one. This is just, again, a size comparison as well as the bill comparison. And then this is a snowy plover that has been banded, and the biologists that work with these birds in this area, they oftentimes do band it because they have to know how many breeding females and males and, the long-term health of it. But they don't band everyone, okay? And then a lot of times people don't see snowy plovers, even though they're probably there. In this picture, you might not be able to see, but there is a snowy plover there and a divot, a footstep. And the next picture it shows that bird. And that's probably a female because it's a lighter in color. Did you have a question?
Yeah, Steve and Laura, who do the China,
Yes.
were saying last season wasn't so good because of predation. So what is done to prevent predation? I mean, we can keep people and dogs away, but
Yes.
the crows and the gulls, what?
So what happens is generally they'll find either a crow or a seagull, or in some cases it's a hawk that has clued in on, oh, these are eggs, chook, 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 and they'll just go up and down. So there is a predator control person who either kills them or somehow relocates them or whatever. And so that is part of it. It has to be, otherwise these birds, they will be able to see exactly what it's like you know exactly where to go and get food.
There's the crows and ravens are so smart. They're able to watch the behavior of monitors. So if you take a monitor training, they say stay away or don't make it obvious. And because they'll watch a human coming over and you're sort of bending down and you're paying attention to the nest. These birds will go, oh, that's where dinner is.
Do you know what period of time for it to increase from 50 to 500? How many years that was? Just approximate.
Yeah, it's a long time.
Predator control.
No. She's asking how long has the monitoring been going on?
For it to increase to 500.
I don't know how long that is, but I know it started before.
At least 10 years.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, we've been coming here about that long and always real careful down there, but it's so easy to.
When we got first back here in Bandon, it was 2003. And they, at that point in time, they still had, but they had allowed dogs on a leash
Yeah,
at that time.
exactly.
So it's been probably more than 20-some years. Yeah.
Thank you.
And then this is a dad that is sitting on an egg, and you can see right here, there's the first hatched chick. And so snowy plover females will oftentimes leave the last incubation duties to the dad while they go off and find another male so they can start another nest. And the next picture will show this bird, the little chick. And, it does just look like two cotton balls with toothpicks for legs. And they go like a bomb on the beach. It's so fun to watch them. It's just amazing. And then this nest actually did have one fledged chick. And this is, I'm pretty sure, the one that actually fledged. You can see it's not quite ready for flight yet, but it's real close. I think it fledged a couple days after this photo. So, and thank you very much for coming.
Are you overwhelmed? Oy, oy, oy. I've only been involved with seed for a little over a year now and stuff. I came from the Midwest, so we didn't have a lot of this opportunity there at all. And And I have learned so much by being on the beach and by being with these types of volunteers who have so much expertise to share. And they do a great job, I think, with the public in sharing that. Just a couple of reminders, quick. On May 3rd is when we have our Welcome Back Puffins little party on Coquille Point. That will be fun. And then at 1 o'clock next Saturday afternoon, we'll be back at the Sprague Room in the library. And we'll have the guest speaker there from Portland, who is the expert regarding puffins. So come for that. On May 10th is when the beached bird training session occurs. And we've got some flyers hanging up on the wall back there in case you're interested in that. And again, I'm sure that will be very interesting. And that's from 10 until 4 o'clock on Saturday, May 10th. And then on May 13th and 14th is when we do our kind of our annual volunteer training. And sign up for that if you're interested in learning more. That's one of the first ones that I attended. And it's very, very informative regarding all of the programs that we have. You get a lot more details. A fourth thing is that there's a new puffin plate, license plate. If you're interested in that, they need to have at least 3,000 people sign up saying yes, and then they'll start printing them, I guess. And they're at something like 2,100 right now, so they're getting really close. So I'll leave this up at the front. If you're interested in a new license plate that shows how cool you are, this would be a good one to do.
And I can get mine if you do that, so please sign
Carol really wants to get a license plate, so help her out, please.
Nobody knows how cool you are.
Do you have any other questions for our experts here? Yes?
I have a couple of questions about our logo. What do you call the group of seals? We have a group in the Coquille River all year round. What do you call a group of seals? A group of seals?
If it's whales, it's a pod.
Okay. They've been here for years and reproducing for years.
Yeah.
And do their numbers change, or what happens to all these young birds and animals that reproduce, but our area seems to be pretty static as far as the population?
Well, a lot of them become a meal for somebody else. And so when they're out swimming around or, out and about, there may be an orca or sharks that will eat them. And sometimes when you find the dead animals on a beach, they'll be missing a head or something like that, because some of these animals, they're fussy, they only want to eat the head of these things.
Yes.
So it's a little bit brutal, but it's also important because that sustains the rest of the...
It's just to sustain the population kind of thing. They don't migrate away or anything like
Some of them do. The stuff I was showing, there's a lot of migration in and out. I just didn't go into it. But,
Yes, sir.
Can anybody speak to, the pelican activity seems a little different this season.
Well,
Yeah.
I did just notice that the Oregon Fish and Wildlife Service is looking into the number of dead pelicans. So just in our little section of beach, we've had 3 dead pelicans. But what they found is the birds that they have necropsy do not have bird flu. But the other thing is, remember, and with the Coast Watch, the algae problem. In California, they're having so much trouble with algae that many seals and sea lions are having trouble as well as birds. And so it could have been that is part of that. And so that's one of the things. They haven't got those tests run yet, okay? So.
Last week, there was a seemingly healthy-looking pelican hanging out at the coffee cafe.
Yeah.
Yeah, the police came to keep people.
Yeah, away.
And the next day I saw it was in the marina. It was actually by the crabby docks.
It was also spotted at one of the school playgrounds.
Oh.
I was told by somebody.
You thought he went for coffee, I thought he went for a beer.